The film begins by showing Ratna, who locks her room as soon as she enters. Her face is also disheveled, and suddenly, she starts making strange movements. The next morning, Ratna is completely normal, and on her table, there is a snake and vena blocker, medicine. Her son is sitting there, and she asks him to leave. On the table, there are new divorce papers that her son has already seen. She is planning to leave her husband, who is a Navy officer, and he had been away on vacation, returning home now. Her husband's colleagues don't behave well, and when he brings her to a movie with 5 of his seniors, she behaves strangely with them. She says she should stay away from them. After the movie, they want to go home, but Faris, her husband, begins meeting a neighbor who tells him that Ratna hasn't been home for several nights. Upon hearing this, Faris becomes very angry. He tries to confront her, but Ratna doesn't respond and leaves again. Faris, in his anger, decides to go outside, but Ratna doesn't react, which frustrates him further. Later, he approaches Ratna and kindly asks her to stay. But she still refuses to stay with him, ignoring him completely. This makes Faris think that Ratna must be having an affair with someone else. Ratna doesn't give him any answers, but she hurts herself, banging her head hard on the table. Her son, seeing this, becomes upset and starts crying. The next morning, when Faris opens his eyes, he hears some clattering in the kitchen and sees that his son is cooking food by himself. He talks to his son and learns that for months, Ratna has not been feeding him. He has been making his own breakfast and getting ready for school by himself. This realization hurts Faris deeply, and he becomes angry at Ratna for her neglect. Just then, there is a knock at the door. Faris answers and sees Ratna's assistant standing there. Ratna works as a scriptwriter and has been very busy recently with a new show that she is producing. Her assistant tells Faris that Ratna has been working at a hotel for the last 3 months, keeping herself busy, and was not at home for a long time. Faris, still puzzled, asks for the hotel address and tries to find out what's going on. The assistant tells him that Ratna has been working there and has not been at home during the nights, but Faris's search for answers leads him to find that there is no one else at the house. Faris, with a mix of curiosity and suspicion, goes to Ratna's hotel to find answers. The girl tells me, "I don't go fast, and our director has arranged for her to be booked here." This girl takes the daughter of a criminal from here and leaves. He brings new news from Faris, saying, "I think there is a demon controlling Ratna. And I can say this for sure because I saw a demon walking behind her in the forest." He doesn't believe in all these things, but in response, he says, "Look, I've done research on this." He says, "You should also keep this, you should read it. If the science in this book starts appearing in your house, then understand that something dangerous is happening and you can save yourself by using the exhaust system." The book says that if any member of the family is involved with this demon, the rest of the family will start seeing strange marks in their house. During this, it is revealed that behind Ratna, her village has turned into a terrifying monster that neither of them had realized. Faris ignores all of this and continues his focus on the director, thinking it's a professional issue. The director then tells him, "That day was really difficult, but I remembered public perception and told him not to disturb Ratna because she is very busy with her project." After hearing all of this, Faris gets even angrier and becomes determined to know everything. To find out, she hires a private spy who keeps an eye on the director and his wife. After all this, the book returns, and it's time for Faris's son to return from school. Ratna's sister brought him home, and Faris, feeling sad, starts talking to her. While they were talking, Faris's son came and said, "Don't take him." When Faris wasn't taking her son, she was told, "She has been behaving very strangely lately, talking to the walls in the house, and sometimes her body even stiffens." During all these conversations, Faris's son started noticing strange marks on the ceiling, and suddenly, he fell into the water. We see here that, meanwhile, Ratna also comes home, and Faris approaches her and asks, "What's going on? How many people are involved in this?" This question was so serious that it made Ratna upset. At Ratna's house, the lights suddenly began flickering, and then the fuse blew. Ratna's face also started looking strange at that moment. Faris thought everything had turned into chaos, but when the lights returned, he saw Ratna sitting on the floor. She wasn't just sitting, her condition was very strange, and her makeup had started to fade. It seemed like some unknown force was present with her. Faris then took Ratna and rushed to the hospital. Her condition was very bad. Barish was wondering what was happening, and suddenly, in Ratna's village, she saw a dead body in the shape of a monster. At midnight, Ratna is attacked again, and she is struggling. She had hidden her village away. Seeing this, the forest picks her up and throws her aside. After this, Ratna's condition improves. Meanwhile, Faris receives a phone call from the spy, who tells him that the director is not involved with his wife because he has already completed the investigation. After the call, when Barish enters the room, she sees Ratna in a very strange condition. Her lights are flickering, and she isn't speaking. When the lights go out, Ratna is nowhere to be found. Barish becomes suspicious and feels something is off. Her doubt is still on the director. Faris, not feeling satisfied, questions the spy again, asking for the address of the director's hotel. He heads to the hotel and, while in the lift, meets an old woman who tells him that someone is coming. After speaking to her, she disappears. Then, Faris gets a gun and heads to the director's room, only to find that no one is there. Returning home, Faris finds his son extremely frightened because he saw bloodstains on the roof. His son hasn't gone to the washroom for a long time because Ratna was there, and now he is scared of his mother. Faris had checked the washroom earlier, and Ratna wasn't there, but now she was, and he didn't understand how she appeared there. When Faris goes to check the washroom again, he finds Ratna in very poor condition. She has hidden something in the corner, and blood is coming from her feet. Anyone who sees her would be shocked. He tells his son to leave the room and then picks Ratna up, placing her on the bed. After calming his son and talking to him, they both fall asleep. But in the middle of the night, Ratna wakes up, and she seems completely fine now. She gets ready, applies bold makeup, and leaves with an umbrella. Outside, it's raining heavily, but she doesn't care and enjoys dancing in the rain. As she moves forward, she finds a taxi. She tells the driver to take her to the hotel, as she has been working there for the past few days. The driver tries to take advantage of the situation, but Ratna ignores him and gets out of the car. In the car, a shadow appears, a ghostly figure, which we see as the entity that had been following her. This entity attacks the driver. Ratna watches all this happen, but it seems like no one else notices what's going on. At night, it was revealed that the spy was following Ratna. As expected, following Faris' instructions, the spy went near Ratna's room. Inside, he heard strange noises coming from her room and suspected that someone was already inside. Without asking anyone, he opened the door and entered but found no one there. Ratna was standing there, seemingly unaffected, as if she didn't care or wasn't fully aware of her surroundings. Her response to the spy's presence was indifferent, as she knew this task was being carried out by Faris. The spy asked her a few questions, and then he began inspecting her room. He checked her closet, the drawers, and even the washroom. But there was no one in the room. He recorded everything on video to later sell it to the forest. While the spy was busy with his investigation, Ratna continued with her tasks. However, as the spy was filming her, Ratna became more agitated. But she didn't respond. When the spy opened the bathroom door to check, he found a lot of blood on the floor and saw an entity, a demon, in the bathroom. Terrified, the spy was forced to leave the bathroom, but the demon followed him. The entity, like a weapon, confronted the man and attacked him. After killing him, Ratna took the body and placed it in a hotel wardrobe. Despite all of this, Ratna's face showed no expression, and she seemed unfazed. Blood dripped from the ceiling, and Faris was terrified. He realized there was no proof against Ratna, but he believed that a demon had possessed her. To find a solution, Faris consulted with others. They believed that a demon had taken over Ratna and suggested performing an exorcism to save her. However, for this, Ratna needed to be at home, and she was nowhere to be found. In the meantime, they discovered something odd. During rehearsals, Ratna's director kept canceling her scripts, which disturbed her deeply. The assistant, noticing this, came to Ratna and said, "I can help you solve your problems, but first, you must give your husband to me." Naturally, Ratna rejected this offer. The assistant then warned, "Think about it. I can give you something that will always obey you. But it won't be a human, it will be an entity, a demon." After seeing all this footage, Barish realized that Ratna's assistant wasn't human but was, in fact, a demon following Ratna. Now, Barish was determined to confront the situation. He decided to go to Ratna's hotel, where he saw that the director was still forcing Ratna. Ratna became very angry, and as soon as her anger rose, the demon appeared in front of the director. The director was terrified upon seeing the demon and didn't know what to do. Just like the spy had done earlier, he tried to back away in fear, but Ratna stood in front of him with a knife at his throat and murdered him. While doing this, she thought that she might end up in jail for what she was doing. Perhaps she was acting under the possession of this demon. Meanwhile, we see Faris stopping near the car where Ratna had arrived, where her driver had been killed. Faris looked at the car, and suddenly the director's body fell from the same car. This sight terrified Faris, and he rushed to Ratna's room. While in the lift, he encountered the same old lady who had met him earlier. She simply told him that someone was coming and then left. Ignoring her, Faris continued to head towards Ratna's room. In Ratna's room, she was lying in an odd position, as if she and the demon had shared some moments together. Ratna's condition at that time was very strange. Faris felt a strong sense that the director must have done something wrong to Ratna, leading her to act this way. He tried to comfort Ratna and told her that nothing had happened, to forget everything, and they would start anew. As he tried to get closer to her, Ratna pulled away, suddenly feeling uncomfortable. She ran into the kitchen with Faris chasing her, but by the time he reached her, Ratna had grabbed a knife and pointed it at him, saying, "Stay away from me. I don't want to be with you. I am happy with the one who listens to me," referring to the demon. Faris realized that Ratna was under the influence of the demon and could not free herself from it. In desperation, he tried to calm her, but Ratna fought back. After a struggle, Ratna lost consciousness, and Faris quickly took her home. Once home, he tried to tie her hands and feet to the bed with candles burning around her, possibly trying to perform some ritual. However, even after everything, Faris was unsure of what to do next. The confusion was clear on his face, and in that moment, he came up with a plan, though it was unclear what exactly it was. Faris tells Ratna that he needs to thoroughly check her body and asks everyone to leave the room. This was a clear sign that Faris too was trying to take control of the situation. Meanwhile, Ratna's assistant had returned from school and was trying to escape, but Faris caught her and confronted her, saying, "I know you did this. You sent the demon to Ratna. You want to control her, even if it means taking her away from me." It was clear that Faris wanted Ratna, but deep down, his intentions were not to save her, he was only concerned with his own feelings. The demon, however, had a different plan. It pushed Faris aside and possessed Ratna's assistant, taking control of her body and attacking the demon. But the demon did not kill Faris because it followed Ratna's wishes. The demon, instead, left with the assistant's body and started causing havoc outside. Back in the room, Faris witnessed Tony trying to assault Ratna, and this infuriated him. Before things escalated, the furniture in the room started floating in mid-air, and the lights went out. Tony tried to take advantage of the situation, but Faris, in a fit of rage, threw Tony against the wall. Meanwhile, at the railway station, Ratna's assistant, under the demon's control, ended up dying in a strange manner, hitting her head against a wall repeatedly. Later, the scene shifted back to Faris' house, where blood was splattered all over the walls and ceiling. Faris, horrified by what he saw, rushed to his son's room, hoping to take him and flee, but when the door didn't open, he had no choice but to go in as Ratna. Inside, he discovered Ratna was spending time with a village boy who was, in fact, a demon. She was intimately involved with not just one but 4 demons. This sight left Faris in a state of shock. His mind couldn't comprehend what was happening, and the stress caused him to faint. When he regained consciousness, he found himself trapped in a theater where his life was in danger, and many of the people Ratna had killed were now shown to have been affected by her curse. Ratna had used her powers to eliminate those who had tormented her. After months of struggle, Ratna was finally free from the demon's possession and the people who had hurt her. The story ends with Ratna's freedom and the tragic aftermath of the events.